All right, 1.5 mobile players. I guess if you're a PC player, this could apply to if you are new or to the game, but I'm making this guide because 1.5 mobile came out. I know there has been some bugs and things like that, but it looks like they've been doing some patches and hotfix. So if you're still having problems, hang in there and don't do anything drastic with your file because likely they're going to be doing a fix for it. So I would hate to see you, lose your save file or anything like that. But anyways, back to the fun content here. We have another guide, and today we are talking about the Mr. Key Special Orders board, which is a very tedious amount of tasks, but they are very rewarding and most of them are pretty fun. I am going to talk about every single quest. There's only a few that I'm actually going to show you what I'm doing to complete them. They're ones that I find are more worthwhile to do and ones that I had no problem making into a shortened version for you to use as a guide. Having said that, I definitely we'll talk about every single quest and either give you some tips or tell you why I would definitely stay away from them. Before we get into it, I would just like to say quickly, if you are enjoying my Stardew content or if you're new to the channel, it really helps me out if you would hit that subscribe button. That will help me keep bringing content, and I have a lot more things planned, so that would be great. So let's get into it. First things first, if you are confused about what the key challenges even are and you're not there yet, I'm going to link you in the description to a previous guide because that's going to set you up better for getting here. So I would watch that one first and look up a guide to find the golden walnuts because that's what you're going to need to do first. So if you're already there, great. We're on the same page. You're ready for this video. In the golden walnut room, which is on the far northeast side of Ginger Island, you are going to find Mr. Key with 10 special orders. So each week on Monday, there will be 2 choices of quests that you can do. Some of them you have just a few days, some of them you have a few weeks, and some of them you have a whole season. You can only choose one per week, but you can have multiple quests going at the same time. So if you have a 28-day one and a 3-day one, you can complete both of them at the same time. You will be rewarded with key gems, which allow you to buy a lot of different things, and they're mostly really useful items. So definitely you're going to want to prioritize this. But let's talk about the actual quests because they can be a lot. Let me just say that there's a few of them that I truly have still never done because they just seem so daunting that I did not want to do them. So I'm definitely going to point that out to you as well. But what we're really going to talk about is what to prioritize if you don't have endless cash and resources. Because if you're still, kind of in your first, second, third, maybe even fourth year, you might have limited money, resources, and stuff. And so some of these quests might be a little bit more difficult to complete, whereas lots of them, you can just buy your way to the end very quickly. So if you're in that place, you can kind of choose whichever ones you like to do. But again, I'm going to provide that guidance for people that might not have that same luxury or you're still working towards that. The good news is a lot of these quests are going to also get you a lot of resources and in some cases money generating. So you're going to get closer to that end game stage by doing these quests, which is amazing. So the quests I would prioritize if you don't have very much money are Let's Play a Game, which is the Juno Kart game. Again, only if you're good at Juno Kart. I'm terrible at it, so I've never completed this one. But if you're great at it, then that's an easy 10 key gems. However, because it is only a 10 key gem reward, if you can realistically get the other one done, it's usually better to do that. So just keep that in mind. The Fishing Quest Extended Family also can be pretty cost effective because all you're going to need is your fishing rod and hopefully some tackle and bait that you already have. Again, I'm terrible at fishing. I've said this in multiple videos, but I did manage to complete this one a couple of times, so you could definitely do it. I definitely recommend having level 10 fishing, the iridium rod, and then using the curiosity lure that you can also find on Ginger Island to increase your chances of catching a rare fish, or using the cork bobber to make your fishing bar as big as possible. Because they go up and down and jump so much, I found that that was the easiest way to catch them. So good luck with that. But it is a cost effective one to do. The last one that is probably cost effective is the key crop, because you basically find all the seeds for free. The reason I don't like this quest and have actually never completed it is because you kind of have to disrupt your entire farm to get this done. If you're at the beginning of Ginger Island where you haven't planted any crops on Ginger Island yet, then it's way less disruptive. But by the time I ended up getting this quest, I had already planted pineapple, starfruit on Ginger Island. My other farm was completely full of crops, so I had nowhere to grow these things. So to me, it was just a pain. However, the reward is so great that if you can, not only will you get a lot of key gems and some rewards, but you won't have to spend a lot of money to do it. Also note that the key fruit sells for 1 gold each, so you're not going to make any profit from doing that quest, or at least the spaces that you're using. If you want a more detailed guide on the key fruit, there's a ton on YouTube, because it is good to have a strategy. When I watched a couple of the guides, I was like, wow, I would have never done that. So check it out. Definitely use the seed makers. That's my hot tip for you. Okay, so I just have told you about 2 of the 3 quests that I've never completed. Here's the last one, Keys Prismatic Grange. Now, this one, to me, you have to ship like 400 or 500 items, and they have to be of whatever they're classified as colors. And to me, that just sounds terrible. There are a couple really easy ways that do cost money to get this done a little bit quicker. For example, for the green items, salad counts as green. You could buy 100 of those from the Star Drop Saloon and sell them. So there's a couple tricks like that, but I don't think you can do that for all of them. So you definitely have to collect these items really thoroughly. And to me, it just seems like way too much time and probably too much money if you end up buying everything. So to me, that one I typically ignore, but if you have a good way to complete it, then by all means, go ahead and do so. Keys Kindness is a quest that I typically did complete because I found that I had a really good system of doing it. So I'm going to throw this infographic from another video I did, and I will also link that one in the description because I go into a little bit more detail of what to do to get all these resources. But here is kind of the items that people like. So basically you have to give 50 loved gifts per week. So here is what I think are the easiest gifts to get in large quantities. And feel free to screenshot this on your phone if you need it as a quick reference. Although the one thing that I would recommend is saving your prismatic shards, because the next one we're going to talk about is a really easy one to complete as long as you have 4 prismatic shards. So what you basically do is put 4 prismatic shards into the collection box and you're done. So to get those prismatic shards, if you don't already have them, I think my favorite way is to actually go into the Skull Cavern and try to get really deep in the Skull Cavern. That's your best chance to find them. And so that's my recommendation. Also, with the next quest we're going to talk about, you will be visiting Skull Cavern quite a few times. So sometimes you can get the prismatic shards for this quest while you're doing the other ones, which is awesome. So moral of the story is, if you can, save your prismatic shards for this quest. All right, let's talk about Keys Cuisine. So with the kindness gifts, where you give the love gifts, that's one that could end up being a little bit expensive because, you know, diamonds are loved items, but if you don't have a lot of cash, it's tough to part with those diamonds and give them as gifts instead of selling them. Same with the Keys Cuisine. You have to cook $100,000 of fresh cooked items. So basically, once you activate the quest, anything you cook after that is eligible to be shipped to go towards the total 100,000. Now, I'm going to put, again, that video that I mentioned before in the description because I talk all about the best recipes and strategies to do this. But just to give you a quick rundown of one easy way to do it if you don't want to go back and watch that other video is, and this is going to take a while, so plant some peach trees, grow some blueberries and melons, and then make the fruit salad recipe. I think you have to obtain that recipe through the TV or by getting enough hearts with somebody. So actually, let me look that up right now. One sec. Yes. Okay. So year 2, fall 7, that's when you can start getting the fruit salad recipe. So if you don't have that recipe, obviously this is not going to work for you, but I put some other options as well. So again, this can be kind of costly, but when you ship the items, I find that you're not going to lose out necessarily on a lot of money, but it takes some investment money to get this one done. So I like doing this quest because I just grew a bunch of peaches, had a bunch of melons and blueberries ready, and then every time this quest came up, I just made however many it took, and I was done within a day. So that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. All right, so the last three we're going to talk about are the cavern challenges, and this is where I'm actually going to show you how to get these done. Just some little tips because I want to make this as easy for you as possible, because the mines can be a little bit tricky, especially if you don't have some of the upgraded weapons that you can get from this update yet. These mine challenges can be quite difficult, but in time, once you do get the key gems, upgrade your items, it becomes a lot easier to get these done over and over. So if you don't have a lot of cash and resources, for example, a bunch of bombs, staircases, and stuff like that typically make the mines a little bit easier to get through, you're going to have to really put your ultimate focus into these. But if you do have more money, you can kind of spend them on a massive amount of bombs and staircases, which will make this, all three of these really a breeze. So the Skull Cavern Invasion, that one, you basically just have to make it to level 100 without dying. So you could either use staircases or just get through the mines naturally. My hot tip for you on this one is if you do have a decent amount of staircases, which you can get through growing jades in your crystallariums and trading them in on the desert traders, you can get down there and finish this challenge really quickly using staircases, and then because you're going to get down there a little bit earlier in the day, then you can spend the rest of the day getting as deep as you can, which will allow you to find iridium ore, prismatic shards, things like that are really unique and profitable to obtain. Okay, so let's go through actually how to get through the mine in this scenario where you have to make it to level 100. So you're going to want to grab your snacks to give you luck, speed, defense, bombs, weapons, staircases, and a way to get home, preferably a totem or a wand, or you just have to leave the mine and go back on the bus. So once you get into the cave, here's what you're going to do. This is what I think is the best strategy to make sure that you don't waste your resources and that you get this done in one day. So I recommend saving your bombs for floors like this, where it's a smaller space and more rocks, because you have a more chance to find a staircase and or a hole to jump in. Make sure you're going on a good luck day, because it will increase your chances to find as many staircases as possible. But if you're running out of time by the end of the week, you might just have to go and, do the best that you can, even if it's on an ideal luck day. But then you definitely want to take at least some luck food to go with you. On floors like this, where it's long, windy paths, you definitely want to use a staircase, unless at the very start you get an early stairs from one of the rocks, because you could spend like way too long just getting through that one floor, and we have 100 to get through, so that's what you're going to want to do. You're also going to want to avoid fighting monsters and collecting loot other than what drops from when you lay your bombs. Especially the stone is really helpful, because then you can maybe build a couple extra staircases. In this run, I actually get enough to build, I think, about 6 extra staircases. So even if you only start with 20 or 30, you could end up having 30 or 40 by the end of it. When you find a shaft, you definitely always want to take it and jump it in, because you can go anywhere from like 3 to I think 11 or 12 levels, which is really helpful. And then the other thing about that is it does cost you a little bit of health every time, so make sure you aren't too low before you jump in, and it's a good idea just to keep your health just keep it as high as possible in general in the mines. If you don't have a ton of staircases, what my recommendation is try to use them only on like the really long and windy floors, or if you get one of the infested floors where it's just filled with monsters that you can't progress until you kill them all, because that will take way too much time. And so again, if you have a very little amount of staircases. You don't want to use those because if you end up on a really bad luck run where you're not getting a lot of progress by the end of the day, you don't want to use 15 or 20 staircases and not make it to level 100. So I would try to use more so bombs in your pickaxe to try to get as deep as possible before you really start committing to using a ton of staircases. If you have enough staircases that you're going to finish no matter what, that's fine too. Just make sure no matter what happens, no matter how many staircases you start with, you save at least 10 to 20 for the last 10 to 20 levels, because if it gets really late and then you just have to use staircases to do the last 10 levels, you want to make sure that you have enough to do that. So I entered the mines around 7 a.m. because I used the desert warping item to get there, which I definitely recommend doing. As you can see, it's about 12 o'clock and I'm on level 33. So that's a good way to judge where you're at. I made it to level 100 in this run, no problem. So if you're approximately around 12 or 1 in your level 30 to 35, you're in good shape. Jumping ahead to 7 or 7:30, you should be between level 70 and level 80. Again, you could get 3 lucky shafts that take you 30 levels in 3 minutes. So it's really hard to say, but if you're not finding a ton, like in this one, I think I only got like maybe 4 or 5 shafts, and then I used maybe 10 staircases, and the rest I had time just to use the pickaxes and bombs to find them on my own. So that's just kind of at least a little bit of a time guide for you so that you can kind of judge how panicked you need to be, because I mean, I'm always panicking when I'm in the mines, period. By this point, I did start collecting some of the iridium and the diamonds because I felt like I was going to make it, and I did have enough staircases that I felt like I could use a bunch if I needed to at the end. So when you get to this point and you do want to collect some things like this prismatic shard here, definitely take the time to do that. All right, so it's almost midnight. We're on level 96, and as you can see here, I'm going to find one last shaft to jump into, and a good tip on this, I'm glad I found this here, because you will never go past level 100. You will always land on level 100 for the quest, which is great because then you can't risk missing it. So don't worry, you're not going to like overshoot it and have to start over. So that's really good. Now I have about 2 hours, and I know I have a warp totem, so I still have some time. So now is the time where you can try to either use as many staircases as possible to find a lot of iridium and prismatic shards, or if you're, just done and want to get out of the mines, then that's fine too. So there's one other quest where you have to get to level 100, but you just can't eat anything when you're in the mines to replenish your health. So it is a little bit trickier. You're definitely going to want to use more staircases for that other one, because not only are you battling against time, but you're battling against, getting swarmed by monsters in the caves. So what you're going to want to do is eat something before you enter the mine, because when I completed it, unfortunately I lost the footage, but I ate right before I stepped into the first level, and then I still got the reward. So you can do one drink, one food, and then start going. So I recommend for this one something with defense, because if you do happen to get swarmed a little bit, it'll let you survive a little bit longer. You can also fight some of the monsters. They'll have hearts inside them that you can visibly see. That regenerates health, but unless you're really good at combat, I recommend just running away from everything, using your bombs and staircases. All right, there's one more key quest, but there's actually so much to cover in that one, and this video is already getting very long, so I'm actually going to push that into another video, because it kind of deserves a video on its own, because there's a lot to cover, and that's using the original mind but with a twist. So stay tuned for that one. And again, if you are watching at this point and you're not subscribed yet, please do that. That really helps me keep bringing you content. And have the best day. If you have any questions, ask in the comments and I will try to answer them as best as I can. See you later.